I didn't realize the amount I wasn't hearing until I did get my hearing aids. And then I'm like, I thought the birds all quit singing. Yeah, it was just amazing, the things that I had just gradually lost over the years and didn't realize I wasn't hearing till I could hear again. Okay, my name is Debbie. I'm from Flanagan, Illinois. Well, I can remember my mom telling me when I was a kid, you're going to go deaf because you've got everything turned so loud. And I guess it came true because now I can't hear. But, and I do, a lot of mowing. We work on the farm, tractors, loud noises. And I don't think growing up we were ever protective of our ears the way people are now. People wear, the sound silencers and things like that, where when I was growing up we didn't. I think back then we just weren't aware of it as much. I don't think that the emphasis was put on it back when I was growing up the way it is now. Even little kids, you'll see them out in like a concert or stock car races and they've got the earmuffs on them starting from a very early age, where we didn't do that when I was growing up. Back when I started having hearing trouble, I did daycare. So it was very important to me to be able to hear all the kids and all the things they were saying. And I started noticing it was getting harder for me to always pick up everything they say. Kids talk really fast sometimes. Early on, my grandkids going to their different concerts and plays and things like that, I was always trying to get in the front row just because if I got back too far, I couldn't hear. And church, that was very important. It got harder for me. I'm like, is everybody else hearing the sermon? Because I'm not getting it all. And I just thought it was a normal part of getting older. I didn't realize that my hearing was that bad and that it could be fixed. And so, yeah, I wish I would have come at least 5 years sooner. For a long time, I didn't think it was me. You just start to think maybe people aren't talking as loud, or maybe they're not looking at you, or I didn't realize it was me, and also the extent of what I wasn't hearing. My husband, as always, would say, I told you this, or if I'd ask him to repeat it, he'd say, why didn't you hear me? And you don't realize that your hearing has gone that much. And it happened so gradually over the time that I just didn't realize. My uncle got hearing aids, and we were over there one night. We were visiting, the TV was on, we were all talking. And when he first got his, he was very bad about wearing them. And we were talking about it, and I said, that's something I really think I need to look into. And he went in and got his. They weren't molds like mine. I have to have the ear molds. And he cleaned them up and he says, here, put these on. And they weren't even made for me. And I put them on, and it was just like a light bulb moment. It was like I can hear everybody talking. I can hear the TV. Before, it was just all mumbled together. And I really had to concentrate to hear what each person was saying. And that was just like, okay, I got to do this now, not later. I got to do it now because I'm really missing out. I didn't really know what to expect, but I was excited. I was really excited to find out if they could help me and if I could get, like I said, I had that little tease, and I was really, really excited. When I got my first ones, I looked at them, and like I said, I have to have the ear molds, so mine are bigger, whatever. She put them in her hand, and she goes, here you go. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're so big. Because my uncle's were smaller because he didn't have the big ear molds, and his were tiny. And I looked at mine, and I'm like, oh my God. But I put them in, and I could hear, and that's all that mattered. I didn't care from that point on. It's like a light bulb moment. You put those in and you can hear for the first time in a long time. You didn't realize how long this was you weren't hearing. And like I said, I was just elated. I couldn't believe how well I could hear. I remember walking into the mall because they were across from the mall. And as I walked through the mall, I could hear all these noises and people talking. And I hadn't heard this before. I was just amazed at what I was hearing. I thought people were standing behind my shoulder talking to me. And I looked around and nobody was within 25 feet of me, and I had no idea. I mean, if I would have known what I could hear, I'd have been here 5, 6 years earlier because I had lost a lot. Matter of fact, my hearing was so bad when I first came in, I guess I flunked my test pretty good because they sent me back to my medical doctor to get a CT scan to see if there was another reason for my hearing loss to be as bad as it was. And I had no idea that I was missing out on as much as I was. But if somebody took these away from me, I wouldn't want to get up tomorrow. I couldn't live back the way I did before. It's just like when you get glasses and you can finally see. It's the same way with the hearing aids. You don't realize what you're missing and what you can't hear until you get it restored. And then it's like, yeah, I couldn't deal with losing them. I panic. When I call them, I'm like, somebody's got to help me. My hearing aids aren't working. That's me. I don't think it was ever about people knowing that I had hearing aids. That has never bothered me, to be able to hear if they were even bigger and whatever. Every once in a while, somebody will say to me, oh, I see you have, because mine, I guess I'm lucky. My hair always covers them and people don't really see it. And sometimes I'll have my hair a certain way or whatever. And somebody will say, do you have hearing aids? And I'm like, oh, yes. And they said, did you just get them? And I'm like, oh, no, I've had them for at least 8 years, wouldn't leave home without them. That part never bothered me. I think probably cost. At one point, it's like, okay, this is a big purchase. Is it going to be worth it? Now, yeah, I would do without something else if I had to. Yeah, my hearing aids would be right up there on the top. That. And they've really helped me. This last pair I got is Bluetooth. That was one thing I still had trouble hearing. If I had my phone in my purse and I was in a store, I just didn't hear it ring. I still couldn't, my ears weren't capable of it. And when I got my second set, again, they informed me what I could get and what I could do. And because that was one of the things I had said I felt bad about. And so my second set has the Bluetooth, so I can listen through my ears. Everybody else doesn't have to hear my conversations now because I had to always put the speaker on my phone. Otherwise, I couldn't hear. And so now I can have it just come right into my ears. I can put music into there, and it's wonderful. I'm not a morning person, so when I get up in the morning, I don't like to put my hearing aids in. I like to have that first cup of tea and sit in silence, and my husband still can't understand that I don't want to hear. He comes in and he tries to talk to me, and I'm like, I can't hear you. And he's like, put your hearing aids in. And I'm like, no, I don't want to hear. And the same thing at night when I go to bed. When I take my hearing aids out, it's like silence. But I never hear my husband snore. I can hear him in there snoring, and okay, time to go to bed. Pluck him out, and it's silence. It's wonderful. I don't hear the refrigerator run. I don't hear things going on in the house. If I get up in the morning and he's got the washer on, I don't hear those common things that other people hear. I mean, it's just almost total silence. And that's nice at times. But I can remember the first time I got up in the morning, nobody was at home, didn't realize my hearing aids weren't in, left to go to the bank. And as soon as they opened their mouth, I panicked because I couldn't hear a word they were saying. And I'm like, I left my hearing aids at home. I'm like, sorry, I'll be back. And I went home, got my hearing aids, and went back to the bank because I couldn't hear without them. And I mean, that's standing right next to someone. So, I mean, yeah, they're a part of my life. Oh, it does help a lot out on the farm because, yeah, if I don't hear well, I don't realize the dangers that are out there when something's running. My husband gets close with the weed eater. I mean, you don't hear any of those things when you don't have your hearing. So it's very important. Even the sound of the tractor. I mean, when I'm driving the tractor, if I don't have my hearing aids in, I can't hear the motor. And if it's too loud or, something's not going right, you don't hear that. Unloading corn, I do all the hauling in and things like that. And it's very important out there that I can hear and run the mowers. To hear a car coming when I mow a lot of roadways. So I'm out there on a mower, and without my hearing aids, I wouldn't hear someone approaching and might turn out onto the road when a car's coming. It really enables me to have safety first there too. I knew a few people that were like me, a little bit younger for the hearing aid, and had been wearing them for years. And I'm like, where's a good place to go? You see these ads in the paper for these cheap ones and whatever. And I said, where would you go, or who do you see? And everybody I talked to, this was the place they told me. And what brought me here was there's all doctors here. You don't see a technician or somebody that's a hearing aid fitter every time I come here, I see a doctor. And I've seen 3 of them, and every one of them has been as good as the other. And I just appreciate that I see a doctor because they know about my ears and hearing problems and whatever. They're just not, they've went to school for this. Like if I come in and say I'm having a problem with something, they find an answer for me. They've just been wonderful to me. And like I said, if I go and see a different doctor, it doesn't make any difference. I found that my quality of care is the same. They're all very caring, and a couple of them understand. It's nice that some of them here don't hear well either because they understand what you've gone through. They know the problems. They know how important it is to hear, not just from what people tell them. They've experienced that in their life too. And I think that makes a big difference. Oh, if someone would have told me 5 years earlier that I could hear the way I could again and hear the things I'd been missing, I'd have been right on the phone. There wasn't that many, because my parents didn't have hearing aids at that time. I didn't know anybody, that was around my age that did. And I guess I just thought it was a part of aging, that's just the way it was. And I was going to have to accept it. I didn't realize that I was ready for hearing aids and it was going to make my life so much better. I would have in a minute come a lot sooner if somebody would have said to me, there's help out there for you. You need to go. This is my life. Without my hearing aids, I don't want to go back to that. But yeah, you can't have my hearing aids. No amount of money. No, you can offer me double and I won't give them to you.